In the NBA, one bad contract can cripple a franchise for years. We're talking about players making tens of millions while sitting on the bench injured, aging stars way past their prime, and deals so bad that teams literally can't trade them. Today, we're breaking down the 5 absolute worst contracts in the NBA right now. These aren't just overpays. These are franchise-killing deals that general managers would do anything to undo. Let's get into it. Starting off with the worst contract in basketball, Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers. And look, when healthy, Embiid is one of the most dominant players in the league. Former MVP, 7-time All-Star, the whole package. But here's the problem. He's never healthy. Embiid is currently making $55 million this season, and he has $248 million remaining over the next 4 years. That's $62 million per year when he turns 34 years old. And what are the Sixers getting for that money? In the 2024-25 season, Embiid played just 19 games before being shut down with knee surgery. This season, he's played only 7 games so far and is constantly dealing with load management for his chronic knee issues. He missed 9 straight games in November, came back for 1 game, then immediately sat out again. The Sixers have him on a minutes restriction, only 20 to 30 minutes per game, and he's not allowed to play back-to-back games. Think about that. They're paying him $55 million to be a part-time player who might not even reach 40 games this season. And the worst part? This contract is fully guaranteed. There's no out. The 76ers are stuck with it. They're paying max money for a player who spends more time in street clothes than in a jersey. Since winning MVP in 2023, Embiid has played just 58 regular season games total. That's it. For $250 million, Philadelphia is getting less than 1 game per week. This is what makes it the worst contract in the NBA. Elite talent, but zero availability. And in basketball, the best ability is availability, something Joel Embiid simply doesn't have. And somehow, the 76ers have 2 of the worst contracts in the league. Paul George signed a 4-year, $212 million deal with Philadelphia in the 2024 offseason, and it's already looking like a disaster. George is 35 years old and clearly on the decline. Last season with the Clippers, he averaged just 16.2 points per game, his lowest scoring average since 2014. He played only 41 games due to injuries and had to have knee surgery in the offseason. This season, he's played just 5 games and is averaging 14 points on 41% shooting. He's making over $51 million this season and has already missed significant time with knee and ankle injuries. But here's the real kicker. George has a player option for $56.5 million in 2027 when he'll be 37 years old. And you better believe he's going to opt into that. So the 76ers are committed to paying an aging, injury-prone player who's nowhere near his all-star form over $100 million over the next 2 seasons alone. This contract is essentially untradeable. No team wants to take on a 35-year-old making this kind of money with this injury history. The Sixers went all in on the George signing, hoping he could be the final piece alongside Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. But instead, they got a washed version of PG-13 who can barely stay on the court. Philadelphia mortgaged their future on 2 max contracts for players who combined have played 12 games this season. That's franchise-crippling stuff. Coming in at number 3, Rudy Gobert of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, Gobert signed a 3-year, $110 million extension, keeping him in Minnesota through age 36. And while Gobert is still an elite defender, he's a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. This contract is a massive overpay for what he brings to the table. Gobert is making $35 million this season and will make $38 million in the final year of his deal. That's max-level money for a player who is only a defender. Offensively, Gobert is a massive liability. He can't create his own shot, he can't shoot free throws, and he's routinely played off the court in playoff situations because teams just hack him or force him into switches on the perimeter. Remember when the Timberwolves gave up 4 first-round picks, a pick swap, and 4 players just to acquire Gobert? That trade was immediately called one of the worst in NBA history. And while Minnesota has had success, they made the Western Conference Finals last season, Gobert's limitations become glaring in big moments. In playoff series against the Nuggets and Mavericks, teams exploited his lack of offensive game and poor free throw shooting. And here's the thing. In today's NBA, paying $35 million a year for a rim protector who can't space the floor or create offense is just bad roster construction. Gobert ranked as the second most overrated player in a recent NBA player poll, and it's easy to see why. He's getting paid like a franchise player when he's really just an elite role player. For Minnesota, this contract limits their ability to build around Anthony Edwards, who's their real star. They're cap-strapped and over the luxury tax, and a huge chunk of that is going to a 33-year-old center with one dimension to his game. Kyle Kuzma and the Milwaukee Bucks, a match made in salary cap hell. Kuzma was traded from the Wizards to the Bucks at the deadline last season, and it's been an absolute disaster. He's making $21.5 million this season with $43 million remaining over the next 2 years, and the Bucks are already desperately trying to trade him. Here's why this contract is so bad. Kuzma was brought in to help the Bucks make a playoff push after they traded away Chris Middleton. Instead, he completely disappeared. In the playoffs against Indiana, Kuzma averaged 5.8 points per game on an abysmal 38.5% true shooting percentage. That's not a typo. 5.8 points per game on one of the most inefficient shooting performances you'll ever see in the playoffs. Kuzma has always been an empty stats guy. He puts up decent numbers on bad teams, but when it actually matters, he disappears. In Washington, he averaged 17 points per game, but the Wizards were one of the worst teams in the league. Now in Milwaukee, his limitations are completely exposed. And the worst part? His contract is essentially untradeable. The Bucks have almost no assets left after dealing for Kuzma, and no team wants to take on $21 million a year for a player who's proven he can't contribute to winning basketball. Milwaukee is stuck with him, and he's taking up a huge chunk of their cap space that could have gone toward actual contributors. The Bucks traded a future first-round pick and gave up Chris Middleton, a proven playoff performer, just to be saddled with Kuzma's contract. It's one of the worst mid-season trades in recent memory, and a contract they're going to regret for years. And finally, at number 5, Jrue Holiday of the Portland Trail Blazers. Holiday was just traded from the Celtics to Portland this past offseason, and while he's still a solid player, this contract makes zero sense for where the Blazers are as a franchise. Holiday is 35 years old and has $104 million remaining over the next 3 years. That's $35 million per season for a veteran guard on a rebuilding team. Holiday helped the Celtics win a championship in 2024, but let's be real, his best days are behind him. He played only 62 games last year, and his numbers have steadily declined. He's not an all-star anymore. He's a good starting guard who's being paid like a star. For the Blazers, this makes no sense. They're rebuilding around young talent like Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe. Why are they paying $35 million to a 35-year-old who doesn't fit their timeline? Holiday will be 37 when this contract expires. The Blazers aren't competing for anything in the next 2 years, so what's the point? And here's the really crazy part. Multiple analysts have called this trade puzzling from the start. Portland traded away Anthony Simons, a 26-year-old scorer on an expiring deal, to take on Holiday's massive contract. They gave up flexibility for a win-now player when they're not trying to win now. The concern isn't that Holiday is bad. It's that he's expensive, aging, and completely misaligned with Portland's rebuild. When you're paying a 35-year-old over $30 million per year on a tanking team, that's a bad contract. The Blazers are going to struggle to move him, and he'll be eating up cap space that should be going toward building around their young core. Teams criticize the move immediately, calling it one of the worst decisions of the offseason. And with Holiday already missing games and showing his age, it's only going to look worse as time goes on. So there you have it, the 5 worst contracts in the NBA right now. From Joel Embiid and Paul George crippling the 76ers cap, to Rudy Gobert's one-dimensional overpay, to Kyle Kuzma's playoff disaster, to Jrue Holiday's rebuild mismatch. These are the deals that keep general managers up at night. Which contract do you think is the worst? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a like. I'll see you in the next one.